Who am I? A difficult question indeed. To answer requires thought, requires honesty. The question vexes me, annoys me, threatens me, even makes me angry. Why? I'll tell you why. Because the question demands sincerity, openness, and forthrightness, which scares me, which intimidates me, which makes me have to grope for answers. For although the question seems simple, its answers can be profound, especially if I am truthful. In fact, the question is a challenge which makes demands of me. Enough evasions, enough avoidance, enough rationalizations. Time to come to grips with the truth of who I am, even if it hurts. Change. I'm getting older. Friends disappear. Neighborhoods vanish. Relationships for something special, clicked onto a website, and fell in love. What he saw on the screen mesmerized him, infatuated him, caused his heart to palpitate, his pulse to race, and his breathing to become deep and rapid like a stud in heat. So strong and overwhelming was the rapture he felt that he almost fainted, for he had finally found the object of his desire. A Canon Powerhouse G5 camera, which for him would be his faithful companion on the road of life, as long as the batteries last. Playtime. A dog is running to and fro, fetching the ball, looking for praise, and gets it. "Oh, what a good dog!" the human exclaims, beaming with satisfaction and pride each time the dog retrieves the ball, while the dog, in response, looks up with those big, watery eyes, which speak volumes without uttering a word, waiting for its well-earned reward. Attention and affection, which the human gladly provides, and which the dog eagerly returns without pretense or ulterior motive, that is, with unconditional love. What do sea lions dream about? The sea lions, admirable creatures, swimming to and fro, posing for the crowd, barking for attention. At feeding time, throngs of people gather to admire them for their strength, their form, their gracefulness, their enjoyment of life. When the zoo closes and the visitors leave and the attendants go home and all is quiet and the sea lions go to sleep, what do they dream about? The days when they roamed free in the seas? The days when they frolicked in the waves? The days when they swam with the whales? The days when they caroused with the polar bears? What do sea lions dream about? The dream. I went to sleep last night and slumbered like a log. I had a real weird dream in which I was a dog. In my dream, I woke up and bounded from my bed, and to my great amazement, my hands were paws instead. And then I ran to a mirror and noticed my long snout containing large incisors and a tongue that was hanging out. And then my lady grabbed me and placed me on a leash and told me, "Hello, Fido. It's time to take a leak." We went outside. It was cold, which made me start to drool. And then the magic happened. I produced a real large pool. And then my bowels did rumble, and then I felt the cramps, and nature then demanded that I perform a special dance. I circled twice, first clockwise, and then I barked real loud. And then I circled thrice more, and was beginning to feel real proud. And then my bowels delivered what nature did demand. And out then came the plop plop, which made me feel real glad. And later on my lady, who was my mistress now, fed me real good dog food, which I ate real fast and loud. And then my dream departed, and I woke up in a fog. Again, I was a human, but now I miss being a dog. New York sunrise. It's a grimy city, crowded, congested, filthy, people pushy, indifferent. That's nasty. It's a noisy city. Lots of cars, lots of buses, lots of trucks, a cacophony of sights and sounds, irritating to the eyes, disturbing to the ears, indeed, insulting to all the senses and bodily organs, especially the brain, which can barely cope with all the pressure and sometimes breaks down. Yet despite the grime, despite the noise, despite everything that makes life in the city cold and hard, there are mornings when the sun shines through the clouds like a glowing beacon on a fog-shrouded beach, containing streams of light that beam to the earth and illuminate the sky, producing a vista of beauty that brings tears of joy to the hardened city dweller and makes life, once again, worth living. The Williamsburg Bridge. And it's an old structure now. Rusting steel, needs constant repairs, covered with soot, grimy, taken for granted, simply a means of conveyance. But when it was new, it was grand, a marvel of engineering and a work of art, and still is today, if you look closely. Its massive steel girders, its tall support towers, its wide roadways and long subway tracks proclaim to the world, we are important, we matter, we still count. So don't forsake us, don't tear us down only because we are old. Let us live. Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls. Majestic curtains of surging water, cascading, never ending onto the jagged rocks below, creating a roar like rolling thunder, a tidal wave of sound reverberating off the cliffs, both powerful and soothing. It can even lull a baby to sleep. And of course the mist, floating high onto the sky, the plumes of gossamer silk meeting the rays of the sun, forming radiant rainbows, each a crescent of dazzling colors like a tiara of diamonds adorning the head of a royal queen. For Niagara Falls is nature's gift to humanity. It her splendor unmatched, her beauty sublime, to be admired and treasured like a priceless gem for all time. The star. She works the cash register like a machine, taking money, giving change. It's hard work, yet she talks, she laughs, she copes, defiantly asserting her humanity. For her, the cash register is more than just a workstation, more than just a place to earn a living. It is a stage where she is the star, the main attraction, the main event, the prima donna, putting on a show for all to see and appreciate, even if nobody cares. Bonnie. Young Bonnie Parker. Sad little girl. Ran with the wrong crowd, but sure had a whirl. Her boyfriend named Clyde was to her quite a find. He craved fame and money to impress and to shine. Young Bonnie did like that, or so we are told. She helped out her man to make him more bold. They were violent, no doubt, left behind many tears. They engaged in sheer terror and to instill abject fear. Yet young Bonnie Parker had a much softer side. She wrote long, fine poems. To everyone's surprise, that sweet side of Bonnie is rarely discussed. It's not part of the myth that the public does want. An accomplished, fine artist, she was in her way. She revealed in long verse things she wanted to say. She had writing talent, which was frittered away. It's really too bad. She may have written a play. Her life has been studied by the movies, you know. She was a wayward young lady who became quite a show. But if someone had told her, hey, Bonnie, get wise, maybe her life would have been longer and nice. Maybe she would have become a good girl, then gone on to college, where she'd shine like a pearl. And then maybe she'd win the Nobel Peace Prize for helping the poor with her gift for the rhyme. But so much for maybes. It just didn't happen. She took a direction that caused lots of havoc. That's the way it is then, the way things to turn out. It's the luck of the draw. Is that what life's all about? Creativity. Within you, there is the poet, waiting for the time and the place to burst forth like a volcano ready to erupt after being dormant for so many years. But wait not too long, for time goes by fast, and before long what is present is past and is forever lost. Break free from the self-imposed restraints and the paltry excuses that render you weak and deny to the world all that you must share. For within you, there is a fire burning, ever hotter and ever brighter, producing a flame so intense that it cannot be contained within that furnace of creativity deep inside your soul, which, now ignited, will never again be doused. A stranger in my own time. You remember when a subway ride cost 15 cents? And a pack of baseball cards cost a nickel? Oh, it was a long time ago. You remember when Mickey and YA were the talk of the town, and Casey managed the Mets, and there was a place called the Polo Grounds, and Tom Tresh was the AL Rookie of the Year? That was a long time ago. Remember when 2 eggs with home fries, toast, and juice cost $1? And a hot dog cost $0.25? It was a long time ago. Or how about when the Major League Baseball played double headers and gasoline cost 30 cents a gallon and $300 a month was real steep rent? Or when apartments were rented, not bought? That was a long time ago. Or how about when people went to drive-in movies and a double feature cost 50 cents? And Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable were still alive? And Johnny Carson was a game show host? It was a long time ago. And what about a time when families stayed together and divorce was almost unknown? And children respected their parents, and Fess Parker starred as Davy Crockett, and Dr. Kildare and Ben Casey were medical heroes. That was a long time ago. Remember when we watched Car 54, Jack Benny and Mr. Ed in black and white? And Elvis was young and alive. And New York City had a mayor named Wagner. It was a long time ago. Remember when there were factories? And a college education was affordable? And housing was affordable too? And silver coins were not collectibles? It was a long time ago. Remember when the military was respected? And a policeman walked the beat? And every daddy was a hero and a breadwinner? And our presidents were stalwart? And the United Nations meant something? And Alan B. Shepard was a national hero, and Vietnam was just a name on a map. That was a long time ago, too. Now everything has changed, and once what was gone forever. Transformed by time, and revealing in its wake a landscape full of landmarks now devoid of meaning, except for us, mere monuments to a time long past, but not forgotten. Gasoline, cars, baseball. Have no time for planned pranks. Gotta know if gas is in the tank. What you say? Why all the complaining? At $3.50 per, I just keep on paying. Remember back in '59 when gas was cheap and life was fine? We went to school, then played at night. Had tons of friends who were all right. The New York Yanks had Yogi and Nick, and a guy named Garrett was a New York Nick. The baseball cards were 10 for a dime. I'll trade you my Turley for your Clem Levine. 1960, the Pirates won. They beat the Yanks on a great home run. Then '61 was a special year with Mick and Rob, who were in fourth gear. Then in '62, the game did change. The New York Mets appeared on the stage. And although the Mets lost lots of games, they won the fans and were steeped in fame. The subway cost just 15 cents, but driving a car was still the best. Pay was low, but rents were cheap. The cost of gas could not be beat. Now when you go to fill her up, you better have $100. So if you drive a big fine car, just remember those days when your money went far. Women walking. Women wearing dresses and shorts, walking on the street, striding forward, showing off their legs like well-conditioned athletes. Thigh muscle bulging, calf muscles straining, Achilles tendons stretching, smooth skin rippling like waves in the ocean with each rhythmic stride. Powerful legs built for running and jumping like springs ready to pop. Built for men to take note of like flowers that attract the bees. Built for bearing the weight of an unborn baby like pillars of marble that support a temple, thereby ensuring the propagation of life. Majestic mountains. Majestic mountains. Jewels of the earth. Regal beings. Awesome, too. Seemingly placid, just standing there, immovable, immobile, like they can last forever. But don't be fooled. These mountains are alive. Just wait for the right time to surprise us all. Mount St. Helens, a case in point. She was just standing there. Nobody gave her a second thought. Then, come on! She's never been the same since, and we've never been the same either. Then good old Mount Hood with that snow-capped peak. Skiers having their fun, clueless to what's happening deep inside her, because she's Mount St. Helens' sister, the pretty one, like Little Red Riding Hood. Get it? And you know how sisters are, how they like to copy one another. So hold on to your hats and get ready to run and grab your camera and camcord, cause it's just a matter of time before the pretty sister blows her top too. It won't be nice, and it won't be fun, and it'll make a lot of noise and scare a lot of people too, but what a great photo op it will make, especially for all those guys and gals too dumb to vamoose or just too hypnotized by the grandeur of it all to tear themselves away, having to bear witness to what is both beautiful and catastrophic. You know, like a pretty woman who's throwing a mean temper tantrum and all you can notice is her body getting hotter and hotter. Don't like the yelling and the cursing and all the venom spewing out of her mouth. Oh, but sure do like that bouncing body, oozing with all that oily sweat and all that raw heat. River of time. Don't be angry. Don't be sad. Just be happy. Just be glad. Life flows on. It's just like a stream. It passes by like a sleeper's dream. You walk your dogs, you pet your cats. It gives you pleasure that you hope will last. So when you chat, just keep in mind that life's a-flowing down the river of time. A beach can be a dangerous place, especially for a baby turtle. Lurking on the beach are many creatures for which baby turtles are a scrumptious delicacy. There are the hordes of crabs that attack these frail little newborns without mercy, killing and eating them by the score. But even more terrifying are the seagulls that patrol the sky, ever searching for a tasty, innocent toddler to devour. These rapacious carnivores swoop down from the sky and pounce on the tiny, helpless creatures without warning. For these hapless babes, alone and defenseless against powerful pincers and sharp beaks, the chance for survival is practically zero. But one baby turtle was determined to survive. That turtle's name was Larry. He was a loggerhead turtle. Larry was the last of a clutch of 100 eggs that his mother Gertrude had deposited in a nest she had dug in a stretch of beach located on the eastern shore of Florida. Gertrude intuitively knew that the baby turtle developing inside that 100th egg would be destined for greatness and named the unborn baby Larry, which in turtle language means special one or great one. After laying her eggs, Gertrude carefully covered the nest with sand, bid her gestating brood a fond farewell, and then dragged herself back to the ocean, never to return. When he hatched, Larry was about 4 inches long and had a beautiful soft shell. Within minutes after hatching, he had tunneled his way to the surface of the sand. Upon reaching the surface, he saw that he was not alone. With him were all of his brothers and sisters, who, like him, were all newly hatched. Now, in order to survive, they would have to make a perilous trek across the beach to reach the ocean where they would be safe. No one craved the feeling of the refreshing swathe of the cool ocean surf more strongly than Larry. Although small and vulnerable, Larry was determined to live. Boldly thrusting his legs deep into the sand, he began his journey to the ocean. With each step, he implored his brothers and sisters to make haste. "Let's go! Move quickly!" he cried. "If we don't make it to the ocean, we will die." Undaunted by the dangers on the beach, Larry placed himself at the front of the group and led the march to the sea. Immediately after taking the lead, he was attacked by a crab. But the crab was small and inexperienced in the ways of killing, and Larry was able to fend off the marauder with little difficulty. But dealing with the seagulls proved to be a far more challenging task. From every direction, these dangerous birds swooped down, picking off Larry's brothers and sisters one by one. Larry himself almost succumbed, but he was able to evade attack by crawling under a piece of wood embedded in the sand. From that vantage point, Larry could see his brothers and sisters being slaughtered as they attempted to reach the ocean. What Larry saw filled him with rage, and he swore that one day he would take revenge on those creatures that have caused his kind so much misery and death. "Why should turtles be treated so horribly?" Larry asked himself. "We have a right to live too," he thought with great conviction. Finally, the carnage stopped. No more baby turtles could be found. The seagulls circled the beach one more time, looking for any stragglers, and finding none, flew away. After the birds were gone, Larry crawled out from his hiding place and continued his march to the ocean. When he was about 40 feet away from the shoreline, he came across the carcass of one of the baby turtles whose half-eaten body was now rotting in the sand. This gruesome sight made Larry's blood boil with anger, and it reinforced his determination to make the beach safe for his kind. Suddenly, Larry saw a crab charging straight toward him. The crab was big and powerful. Larry had no time to hide, and so he had to fight. The crab grabbed Larry in one of its pincers and started pulling Larry toward its gaping mouth. But Larry fought back. With a strength that surprised the crab, Larry broke free from the crab's hold and then bit the crab on the top of its head, causing the crab to retreat in confusion and pain. A baby turtle actually fighting back was unprecedented. The other crabs on the beach took notice of this amazing event, and Larry was bothered no more. Finally, Larry reached the ocean. He was alone. All of his brothers and sisters were dead. By now, his anger was boundless, but as soon as he entered the water, he felt immediate pleasure and relief. He no longer had to crawl. He could now swim. He soon came to know and admire the myriad of creatures that inhabit the ocean. There were fish in all shapes and sizes, and they all seemed to be very friendly. There were also huge clumps of seaweed where Larry, who was by nature a vegetarian, could eat kelp and sleep undisturbed at night. Living in a secure environment helped to ease Larry's anguish. Larry thoroughly enjoyed his life in the ocean. For him, it was bliss. As the years passed, Larry grew to be big and strong. When he reached full maturity, Larry was an impressive sight to behold. He was over 5 feet long and weighed almost 500 pounds. He was a handsome turtle with a large, majestic head and a beautiful shell that displayed a kaleidoscope array of colors. He was the envy of the sea. Over the years, Larry made many friends. His best friends were Solly the Stingray with his long, pointed tail, Bobby the Porpoise with his perennial smile, and Calvin the Squid with his big eyes and long legs. All day long they frolicked in the waves and laughed, led by Larry, who organized all the fun. But despite the good life, Larry lacked peace of mind, for he never forgot his vow. One day, while playing with Calvin, Larry suddenly turned away and started swimming west. Calvin, greatly surprised, quickly swam over to Larry and asked, "Why have you stopped swimming? Why have you stopped playing?" Larry stopped swimming and told Calvin that he had to return to the place of his birth. "But why?" Calvin asked. "Everything you need is here," he implored. Larry said, "I know, but I must keep my vow." "What vow?" Calvin asked, perplexed. "It's something you won't understand," Larry said. I thought we were friends," Calvin said, now feeling hurt. "You're my closest friend, Calvin," Larry said. "But I must leave now." "I'll miss you," Calvin said, and started crying. Larry said, "I'll miss you too. I'll be back someday. I promise." Calvin continued to cry as Larry swam away. Despite his anger, Larry had a friendly, easygoing disposition. While growing up, he never hurt anyone and always was helpful to others. But while swimming back to the place of his birth, Larry's personality changed. He felt the anger which he had long suppressed and almost forgotten welling up inside him, and this anger grew stronger and stronger with each passing day. This anger in turn fed the obsession that impelled Larry to swim on, completely indifferent to his surroundings. After swimming continuously for 5 weeks, Larry saw in the distance the stretch of beach where he was born and almost died so many years before. During his journey, Larry had not eaten. He did not feel hungry. What he did feel instead was an unshakable belief that he had something important to accomplish, something that had to be done, even if it meant his death. As Larry approached the beach, he was embarking on something that no male loggerhead turtle had ever done before. For the first time in the history of his species, a male loggerhead turtle was returning to the place of his birth. Heretofore, only females had returned to the beaches to lay their eggs. The males had no business being on the beach. Their place was in the ocean. Or so that was the case up until now. But Larry had no interest in being a show-off. He had more serious concerns, and if anybody had told him that what he was about to do was unprecedented, it would not have mattered to him in the least. All Larry knew was that he had something important to accomplish. It was night when Larry swam onto the beach. The beach was deserted, but that did not cause Larry any worry. Instead of feeling loneliness or fear, he felt strangely invigorated and bold. And instead of feeling sluggish from the weight of his massive shell, he felt almost as light as a feather. With little effort, Larry walked across the beach, found a comfortable-looking sand dune covered with grass, dug a hole in the sand, and soon fell asleep. Larry awoke with the dawn. He felt refreshed and ready to meet the day. He also had a craving for food and a desire to explore. The beach was littered with refuse left by the people who used the beach during the day. Wherever Larry went, he saw empty soda bottles, paper bags, and cigarette butts. Larry was depressed by the condition of the beach and was doubly convinced that returning to the place of his birth was the right thing to do. Now he had a score to settle, not only with the creatures who had killed his brothers and sisters, but also with the humans who had turned his birthplace into a garbage dump. The world must learn to respect the turtle, Larry thought to himself. Then he saw something a couple of hundred feet away that immediately caught his attention. Two seagulls were fighting over the remains of a baby loggerhead turtle. Carefully concealing himself in the sand, Larry slowly approached the birds. The birds did not know that they were being watched and continued to shriek with delight as they fought over the turtle's remains. To them, devouring a baby turtle was as natural as breathing or flying. After all, they were the masters of the beach, so they thought, and nobody could tell them what to do. And it would be foolhardy for anyone to challenge them, especially a turtle who, if he valued his life, would think twice before trying to confront a group of seagulls. "Oh, what a scrumptious turtle!" a seagull crowed to the other, a morsel of turtle meat hanging from his beak. "It sure was," the other happily agreed. "I can't wait to find some more." It would never have occurred to them that the turtles had feelings too, and they would have laughed out loud at the very thought of it. As they continued to cackle with delight, little did they suspect, nor could they possibly know, that soon their world was going to change. Larry sneaked closer and closer to the seagulls, who continued to enjoy their feast. Suddenly, with a burst of energy, Larry, using his powerful flippers like springs, jumped out of the sand and ran straight toward the birds. The seagulls were shocked. They never saw a turtle behave this way before. Larry shouted to them, "Leave that turtle alone," and continued to charge at the birds, who had now taken to flight. Flying above Larry, the seagulls asked, "Why are you angry at us?" "Because you birds are nothing but murderers," Larry said, looking up at the circling seagulls. "I was born here, and as a baby turtle I saw what you birds did to my brothers and sisters, and now I'm back to seek my revenge." "Oh, but it wasn't us," the seagulls complained. "We want to be your friends," they insisted. Larry was not moved by their offer. Instead, a feeling of hatred welled up from deep inside him, and Larry looked up at the birds and said, "We can never be friends as long as you continue killing little turtles." "But we've got to eat," the birds lamented. "If you stop us now, we'll die." "That is not my concern," Larry retorted. "I will protect the beach from bad birds like you. Now go away." The birds continued to fly above Larry. Finally, one of the seagulls said, "What you're doing is wrong. This is the way things are, and it has always been this way. We're sorry about what happened to you when you were a baby, but we were not even alive at the time." "So what? That matters nothing to me," Larry said angrily. "You are the descendants of those who hurt my family, and so you must pay the price for what your ancestors did. So be off with you now and tell all your friends not to return." Angry and bewildered, the seagulls flew away. Larry turned to the half-eaten remains of the baby turtle. He buried the remains of the turtle deep in the sand and then resumed his exploration of the beach, determined to protect any turtle in distress. It was still early in the morning. People had not yet appeared on the beach. Larry walked along the shore and then returned to the sand dunes. While crossing the beach, he saw the mangled remains of baby turtles who had failed to reach the safety of the ocean. "There must be some other nests around here," Larry thought to himself. After walking about a quarter of a mile, Larry came across a mound of sand that appeared to be moving. Larry watched with great excitement as baby turtles suddenly began emerging from the mound.
It was a glorious sight to behold, and Larry was beside himself with joy. "Hello," Larry said to each little cousin as they poked their heads through the sand. "Hi," each little turtle replied. "Who are you?" "I'm Larry, and I'm going to make sure that you make it to the ocean safe and sound." "Why do we need your help?" they asked. "Because there's danger on this beach," Larry explained. "On this beautiful beach?" the baby turtles replied incredulously. "That's right," Larry said, "and soon you will understand what I'm talking about." Larry could see in the distance a huge flock of seagulls flying toward the nest. Leading these birds were the 2 seagulls that Larry had drove away before. When the seagulls were directly over the nest, one of the leaders shouted to Larry, "Now I'll teach you a lesson, you big ugly log!" Larry shouted back, "If you so much as even touch one of these turtles, I will crush you in my flippers." But the seagulls were not deterred. They continued to fly high above the turtles' heads, preparing to attack. Finally, they started to dive. "Here they come," Larry called to his baby cousins. "I'll protect you." The seagulls swooped down, screeching, "You'll not chase us away!" and attacked with blinding speed, causing panic among the terrified baby turtles who frantically scoured about trying to avoid the angry birds' beaks. But Larry, moving like a whirlwind, repeatedly drove the attackers away. Every time a turtle was attacked, Larry shouted, "Put that turtle down!" and charged straight at the offending birds. "No!" the seagulls shouted back. "The beach is ours, not yours, and we're hungry," they cackled defiantly. "The beach belongs to the turtles too," Larry retorted, "and I'm here to make sure that my little cousins survive." The seagulls screamed back, "You can't stop us, you stupid oaf!" "I will," Larry said. Then the unimaginable occurred. Larry grabbed one of the seagulls with his flippers and began squeezing the bird with all of his might. Then Larry began devouring the bird. The seagulls, appalled and stunned, stopped what they were doing and gasped in horror. The sight of one of their kind being killed and eaten by a turtle filled them with revulsion and despair. "Look what you've done!" the seagull screeched at Larry. "I warned you what would happen, but you didn't believe me," Larry said, with no trace of remorse. "You'll pay for this!" the seagull leader said. "You made me do it," Larry said in reply, not for a moment backing down. Larry then swallowed the dead seagull with one final gulp. The seagulls stopped their attack and flew away high into the sky. Through his bold efforts, Larry had saved all of his little cousins from death. When the seagulls were gone, Larry said to the baby turtles, "Now's your chance to reach the ocean. Follow me." With Larry in the lead, the group resumed their march to the ocean. Having seen what had happened to the seagull, the crabs at first did not attack. But as the turtles crawled by, some of the crabs, believing that they could evade Larry, darted out from their burrows in the sand and began grabbing at the turtles. However, each time a crab grabbed a turtle, Larry would charge at the offending crustacean who, frightened, would relinquish its victim and then frantically bury itself in the sand to escape Larry's wrath. Most of the crabs were able to escape without being harmed. But one crab wasn't so lucky. Larry caught him before he could disappear into the sand, and with all the other crabs watching, ripped the unfortunate beast into pieces and then ate each piece until the entire creature was devoured. Appalled by this grisly spectacle, the crabs, now terrified of Larry, did not bother the baby turtles anymore. Confident that there would be no further troubles, the turtles with Larry still in the lead continued their trek to the ocean. But little did they know that this peaceful interlude would soon be shattered. As people began arriving at the beach, they were shocked and amazed by what they saw. A large turtle, running about in its flippers, was fighting off hundreds of seagulls who were attacking the turtle from all directions. The seagulls had returned in force to settle their score with Larry. No one among the humans knew what had caused the fight, nor did anyone among them care. The fighting got steadily worse as more and more seagulls joined in the fracas. Soon, the turtle was totally obliterated from view. People from other parts of the beach came running to see what was going on, and in an hour a large crowd had formed. The commotion soon attracted the attention of the police, who attempted to cordon off the area where the fighting was occurring. Larry remained completely oblivious to all the attention he and his seagulls were attracting. All Larry knew was that he was fighting for his life and the survival of his little cousins who wanted desperately to get to the ocean. "I'll protect you," Larry called out to his charges. Meanwhile, the seagulls continued their relentless assault on Larry, who fought the birds with all of his might. The people on the beach did not understand the drama that was taking place. To them, the fighting involved a bunch of animals who apparently had gone berserk, tearing up the beach and ruining an otherwise beautiful beach day. While the police were standing around trying to figure out what to do, fighting escalated. Within minutes, several hundred more seagulls had converged on Larry, trying to kill him. But the seagulls' efforts failed, for Larry was too strong for them. Bodies of dead and injured seagulls soon littered the beach. This delighted the crabs, who quickly went to work devouring the seagull remains. Undeterred by the heavy losses that were incurring, the seagulls redoubled their efforts to destroy Larry. And Larry, undaunted, continued to fight back. Go away, Larry yelled, and would crush a seagull between his powerful legs. You go away, the seagulls yelled back when continued stabbing at Larry with their beaks. After a while, the seagulls began arguing themselves, as some of the seagulls wanted to leave, while the others wanted to continue fighting. For the seagulls who wanted to continue fighting, the choice was clear. Either defeat Larry or die. To them, the very survival of their species was at stake. They feared that if defeated by this turtle, they would be denied their major source of food and would starve. But the other seagulls disagreed. "Why should we fight?" they asked. "Well, there's other sources of food, and besides, we can't defeat this big crazy turtle." Hearing this defeatist talk, some of the seagulls became crazy with rage. "Traitors! Cowards!" they cried. "We are the masters of the beach, and no turtle will ever drive us away," they said with conviction, and with these words redoubled their efforts to defeat Larry, who continued to kill them one by one. Larry saw that the seagulls were now divided and hoped that the aggressive seagulls would listen to their pacifist brothers and stop fighting. But they would not listen, and so the battle raged on. While the fighting ensued, the seagulls, intent on destroying Larry, completely ignored the baby turtles, who continued to inch their ways toward the sea. With cries of joy, the baby turtles finally reached the water, and with powerful lunge, each entered the refreshing surf. As the baby turtles disappeared into the water, seagulls gradually broke off the attack. Even the most fanatical seagulls realized that further fighting was useless. Larry was victorious, his revenge complete. The seagulls' domination on the beach had finally been broken. Seeing that the fighting had stopped, the police left the beach. But Larry was soon to discover that his struggles were not yet over. Although to the turtles Larry was a hero, to the people on the beach he was a threat. Nobody knew what to do with this big, monstrous turtle, and not understanding him, they feared him instead. Now, Larry was not too fond of people either. He saw how they fouled the beach with their garbage and trampled on the turtles' nests, killing hundreds of baby turtles. Larry wanted to put a stop to that at once. Larry noticed a man, a woman, and 2 young children sitting on a blanket that, unbeknownst to them, they placed right on top of a turtle's nest. Infuriated, Larry charged straight toward the family. Seeing this huge reptile coming straight at them, the children became hysterical while the man and woman threw their beach chairs at the charging turtle in an effort to defend themselves and their children. "Get out of here!" the man shouted as he flung a chair at the intimidating intruder. "Go away!" the woman screamed as she tossed a chair directly in the path of the oncoming beast. The man and woman continued hurling objects at Larry until finally a thermos bottle struck him on top of the head, momentarily dazing him. But Larry was staggering. The man and woman gathered on their children and quickly left the area. Moments later, Larry recovered and started chasing the other people away from their blankets and chairs, and soon the waterfront was in a state of pandemonium as this maniacal turtle rampaged up and down the beach, completely demolishing scores of chairs, beach umbrellas, blankets, and towels. Again, the police appeared, this time to quell the disturbance caused by this troublesome turtle. But the police were in a quandary. Under the law, the loggerhead turtle was a protected species. So the police had to make every reasonable effort to capture Larry without harming or killing him. But Larry proved to be one tough turtle. First, the police threw a net over him, but Larry bit right through the cords. Then they tried to put a noose around his head, but Larry just shook the noose loose. Then they tried to shoot him with a tranquilizer shot from a rifle, but the needle bent. Then they tried to... Now desperate, the police decided to call for help. Soon an army helicopter was hovering over the scene. Hanging from the helicopter was a large steel cage. After several attempts, the helicopter succeeded in placing the cage over Larry. Upon seeing this, the police shouted for joy and were preparing to transfer their prisoner to the local zoo authorities when something truly astonishing occurred. Using his large, powerful front flippers, Larry began digging a tunnel, and a few minutes later, he was standing outside of the cage. The police, now totally frustrated, had to again confront this most formidable adversary. Now, what can we do with it about this? What can we do with this crazy turtle? They asked each other with despair. "Oh, let's shoot it," one irate officer demanded. "It's only a turtle." Other officers said. A large crowd of onlookers agreed with the police. "Kill it! Get rid of it!" Then he yelled. The officer in charge listened to these comments, and after giving the matter some thought, reluctantly gave the order to kill the turtle, justifying the decision on the grounds that the turtle posed a threat to the public safety and would eventually hurt or kill someone if not put down. As the police prepared to carry out this order, it seemed that Larry had just a few more moments to live. Larry watched intently as the police slowly approached him, guns drawn. He sensed that something bad was going to happen, but he made no effort to flee or defend himself. What are these people doing, and why are they holding those metal objects in their hands? Larry asked himself. Don't they know that I am now master of the beach and protector of the turtles? Of course, the police could not know what Larry was thinking, and if they had been told, they would not have believed it and would have called anybody who did believe it crazy. The possibility that animals could actually think like human beings was an idea that most people found preposterous. True, many people had pets such as dogs and cats and birds and even turtles, and lavished them with love and affection. But to believe that their pets were capable of abstract thought was something that almost no person was willing to accept. Because if that were the case, then the relationship between humans and animals would have to be redefined, since the inferiority of animals could no longer be taken for granted. On the beach, however, no one was troubled by such thoughts. To the police, Larry was nothing but a dumb reptile whose behavior posed a threat to the safety of the public. And for that, he was going to pay with his life. 10 police officers formed a circle around Larry, each officer holding a gun aimed straight at Larry's head. They were waiting for the order to open fire. Suddenly, an old man ran out from the crowd and started pleading with the police not to shoot. "Don't shoot," the old man said. "I can talk to this poor creature," he insisted. Now, hearing that, everyone started laughing. The old man, whose name was Cliff, was known as a town crackpot. He was often observed wandering aimlessly and talking to himself, but he was considered harmless, so people indulged him in his fantasies and, left him alone. Cliff, however, persisted. "Please, I beg of you, let me talk to him," he pleaded over and over again. Soon the old man was weeping inconsolably, and people began feeling sorry for him. Then the officer in charge ordered the police officers to put away their guns and went over to Cliff, who was sitting in the sand, still weeping. "Okay, Cliff," the officer in charge said, "I'll let you try to talk to the turtle. But if the turtle threatens you or anyone else here in any way, we will have to take action." "Oh, God, thank you," Cliff said, looking up at the police officer. Cliff then got up, brushed sand from his shabby clothes, and began walking slowly toward the turtle. "Take it easy, boy. Take it easy. I'm not going to hurt you," Cliff said, trying to reassure Larry. While Cliff was approaching Larry, Larry was sizing up Cliff. Unlike other human beings, Cliff seemed to be friendly, and Larry liked making friends, so Larry decided to let Cliff come closer. Finally, Cliff was standing right in front of Larry.